Welcome to Echoes from the Basement, an X-Files podcast. I'm your host, Alice, and today we're stepping out of Agent Scully and Mulder's world and into our own reality, where the strange isn't just theory and the unexplained hides in plain sight. This is Mini X-Files, Case 5. It's 1989. You're sleeping in your bed next to your partner, surrounded by darkness in your apartment bedroom. You sleep safely in your bed until something jolts you awake. You can't move, panic sets in. From the corner of your eye, you see them. Gray creatures with black eyes. They move towards your bed. They tell you to be quiet even though their mouths don't move. Blue light floods the room that you're in, and then you're gone. You wake up the next day hoping it was all just a bad dream. Or was it? This is the story of Linda Napolitano, the New York mom seen drifting across the night sky. Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Friday. I wanted to share some more about my Seattle trip that I forgot in my first episode that was released earlier on this week. I went to Seattle specifically to see My Chemical Romance, and I saw them live. It was probably one of the best days of my life. I've been a My Chemical Romance fan since 2010, so it was great to see Gerard and the whole band on stage in person live. The Violent Femmes also played, which is one of my favorite bands of all time. I had a really great time there. We also went to the cafe where Twin Peaks was filmed. It's called Tweed's Cafe. It's located in Seattle. The ambiance in there is excellent. It really is like being in the show. The food is also delicious. We went back there twice. I originally had a black coffee and cherry pie like Agent Cooper does. My husband got real breakfast that day. And then one day before we left, we got like actual breakfast there, and it's delicious. I would highly recommend going there. Let's get into the case. I want to shout out my source. It's The Unbelievable Story of Linda Napolitano. Hopefully I'm saying her name right. The New York housewife who was allegedly abducted by aliens by Amber Morgan. And I will put the link in the description below. We're talking about Linda Napolitano. Hopefully I'm saying her last name right. She was just an ordinary mom. She had 2 kids and a loving husband. They lived in the 12th floor in a Manhattan apartment complex. One night on November 30th, 1989, Linda explains that she was awoken by 3 gray beings with black eyes, and they surrounded her bed. She couldn't move and couldn't cry out for her husband. Linda then goes on to say that she saw a bright blue light flood the room, and this light lifted her out of bed and into the sky. She was eventually brought into an oval-shaped spacecraft. The aliens laid her out on a table and inserted an object into her nose. She woke up the next morning to her husband as if nothing had ever happened to her. Linda thought it was just all some dream, just a nightmare. But she noticed the next day a strange lump in her nose. She went to the doctor, and the physician x-rayed it, and they found something was up her nose at some point, but it wasn't there now. Linda then went to a specialist again that kind of confirmed the doctor's belief and her own that there was some sort of object lodged in her nose, but wasn't there now. She ended up meeting with Bud Hopkins, a renowned artist and UFOologist who spent years studying UFOs and aliens, and she told her story to him about how she was abducted in the middle of the night. He went on to publish a book in 1996 called Witnessed, the true story of the Brooklyn Bridge abduction, based on the events on Linda's story. He also used pseudonyms for Linda and the other 23 witnesses who said that they saw Linda floating around that night. This is where the story takes a turn, though. Hopkins started to collect data and information and investigate for his books and his own personal research in 1991 after Linda reached out to him. He was then contacted through a letter by two security guards named Richard and Dan. The letters state that the two men saw Linda floating around that night. They saw three alien figures and a woman in a white nightgown floating from an apartment window into a spaceship. Richard and Dan also state in their letter that their client, a world leader who was in New York at the time, had also witnessed it. People speculate that this person was Jabbar Perez de Cuellar, I hopefully am saying his name right, as Secretary General for the UN. That's who their client was. Another twist in the story, just a quick trigger warning. Richard and Dan tracked Linda down, and they all talked about the events that happened that night. According to Hopkins, Dan started stalking Linda and became obsessed with her. And on April 1991, she was kidnapped by Dan and Richard and was interrogated for hours about her abduction. Then on October 1991, Dan kidnapped Linda again and brought her to his home. He then, trigger warning, forced her to wear a nightgown, and then he eventually tried to force himself on her. Linda got away, but eventually letters from Dan started pouring into her mailbox about how Dan was in love with her, which is very creepy. We're going back to the alien side of things. Hopkins has found more abduction cases that match Linda's, but the UFO community is sort of torn on this case. Some believe that the story must be true because of the sheer number of people who came forward and said that they saw something that night. Others think that this is just an elaborate hoax because none of these witnesses would come forward or reveal their names, and there's just a whole bunch of lack of evidence from this night, which I also agree to an extent as well. If so many people saw Linda getting abducted, why have they not come forward and said something about those events of that night? I completely understand why this is torn. You always want to believe somebody who has had this experience, but on the other side, where is all the evidence? Even Hopkins admitted that he has never met Richard or Dan ever. But Linda's story always stays the same even over the years. Now, I want to ask you guys, what do you believe? Do you think this is an abduction, or is this story an elaborate hoax? You guys let me know. I want to mention some other info about this case. Linda suggests her abduction was planned, that it was meant to draw the attention of people in power. She's saying that these aliens had a plan all along. That's why the Secretary General saw it. He was meant to see it. The aliens were steering world leaders into focusing on environmental sustainability. Kind of sounds like Captain Planet to me. No shade, I love that show. I want to be a Planeteer now. I also want to mention Netflix released a documentary in 2024 called Manhattan Alien Abduction, which features Linda talking about her case, her abduction, and what had happened, but that also comes with its own controversy. You guys let me know, have you seen this documentary on Netflix? What do you guys think? And what do you think about the whole case in general? But that's it for today. Thanks for listening, all you truth seekers, abductees, and X-Files enthusiasts. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show. And remember, the truth is out there. You just have to find it.